Yeah.
You see this rolling with it, and I'm like, you know what?
Waiting on anybody?
I'm waiting on.
I'm surprised.
You ready?
Come on. Yeah.
All right.
Come on.
All right. You are being asked to join.
Dress down at that press conference, but yeah, that's right. That's right.
Got your balance. I'm good. Everybody close enough now. Get in the scoop.
Out here.
Remember the cameras out front, so let's
Yeah, we need some balance on the other side, yes.
come there.
Y'all are short. You're not blocking nobody.
Come on, y'all. Come on.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today we have come together to unleash to you a plan that we've been working with Senator Mallow with concerning public transportation in Chatham County. That's now being headed up by Chatham Area Transit Authority. And we work it with Senator Mallow is working with our delegation and working with the county so that we could get to a place where we all could agree, right, and to use the vernacular of some folks, we could get along. We never were out mixed, but we always were at a point where we wanted to do what's best for all the citizens of Chatham County. I want to say this now, and then I'll turn it over to Senator Mallow, and I'm glad that I was able to catch him and call him to come quick. He was saying he wasn't dressed for no press conference. I told him, listen, come as you are, like I tell him at church. Okay. The aim and objective of this commission, and Senator Mallow, and we expressed that to the delegation for us, is to return public transportation back to the stages with the improvements that need to be made before there were cuts in 2022. Half of the county was cut off of public transportation in 2022, and that's been a sore going on since 2022. And I think we have come to the point where we can all agree. Nobody has everything they wanted, all right, but we do have a point where we all can agree what is best for the citizens of Chatham County. So with that, let me turn it over to Senator Mallow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to members of the commission. In response of the letters, I sent the chairman a letter late last night. We had a meeting this morning. I've read the letters from CAT. I read the letters from the county chairman, the county manager, and understanding the position where we are. We all understand that everyone needs transit in Chatham County, and we have to do so in a way that it is equitable. And it is the General Assembly that made changes to the CAT board through HB 756, and it will be the Georgia General Assembly to make updates to that board as it is the legislative power. I spoke with Representative Ron Stevens this morning, the dean of our delegation, and we've kind of outlined these 4 things where we think the county does have this influence, and I will lay them out now. We've discussed increasing the CAT board to a 13-member board, adding an additional county commissioner to the CAT board to ensure that the county's interests are clearly reflected in governance. This would help align oversight with the county's long-standing role in funding regional transit operations, as that is a growing conversation with the economic development we are experiencing in our region. We do think that is something that must happen moving forward. I'm also asking for an additional seat to the board for the city of Savannah. Savannah residents rely on the highest levels of transit through equitable representation. It is our hope that adding another city-appointed seat would also help balance decision-making power and adding an additional governmental entity to have additional oversight over public funds. The third would be to establish a formal deadline in the CAT Act for an audit to be turned over to the County Board of Commissioners, to the manager's office, so that the County Board of Commissioners will have an audit and a deadline date. We already do this for cities and counties. There is a deadline that they have to have their audit completed and back to the state for that independent review from our state auditor. We think that's good government. We think that that is the accountability and the transparency that taxpayers deserve here in Chatham County. And we also agree that we have to create a framework for the CAT millage rate hearings, because the County Commission does bear the weight of increasing that millage rate on its citizens through collecting the CAT tax. We think that there needs to be an on-ramp where that discussion happens earlier than the county millage rate hearings to ensure that the public can voice their concern and oppositions of what they're paying for and receiving with CAT services, so it can be also done on the county public record. There can be public testimony. The Board of Commissioners can hear that information. And I think moving forward through this, we will also discuss how do we fund transit moving forward. What does that look like? Those are going to be ongoing discussions and negotiations with other governmental entities. And you may say, well, why Senator Derek Mallow? I reached out to Commissioner Hodge. She reached out to me. I represent Port Wentworth. I represent Garden City. I represent Savannah. I represent Chatham County. I represent 200,000 constituents, and they're all in Chatham County. They all rely and depend on CAT. And so I met with our chairman, I met with our manager this morning. I think this is a framework that we all can work through to make sure the county's interests are balanced, to make sure that the authority can operate and run and exist. And then we'll work with the city of Savannah and our legislative delegation to move this bill and its passage and get support. And I plan to present this same letter to the delegation at our meeting on tomorrow so that my colleagues in full will have an opportunity to review this and move this legislation forward at the start of our legislative session is my goal. Thank you.
All right?
Y'all are welcome to get a copy of it.
Yeah.
Chairman Ellis, of
Sure.
course, the Chatham Area Transit held a press conference yesterday in response to your announcement a couple weeks ago about some claims you had made. The biggest one being, the missing millions or alleged 4 million unaccounted for funds that you had mentioned. They provided their, quote, true-up statements, and they claimed that there was basically 2 contracts, and they said that you had maybe missed one of the contracts for the allocated money, the second part of that contract. What do you have to say, though? Do you still stand by those missing funds, or is that something, can you clarify that?
Here's how I clarify that. All right? In what I said, I never said anybody stole money or anybody took money, but there were gaps in what was given to me from my managers and finance teams, and we needed for those gaps to be filled in. Here's a gap that still exists as I even speak to you today. There's a ferry running, and from 2018 up until Ms. Cutter testified before us in June of 2025, no money is flowing. I can't find the monies that pay for the ferries, but the ferries are still rolling. So my question about the report that was given to me, fill in these gaps so that we know where that money is, all right? So if they have it in another account somewhere or there's another counting procedure, the management team here don't have that, all right? So they need to know to make sure that we have it so that we know exactly where things are. Because as I've said before, and I'll say it again, the county commission, and the senator just said, is responsible for public transportation in Chatham County, all right?
So are you saying then those missing 4 million or unaccounted for funds that you were referencing, is that all coming from the ferry? Because I also mentioned, I know there was a budget too, a 2026 budget, cap budget, that was also.
No, I'm not saying all of it coming from the ferry. But what I need for them to do, and I asked the manager and our audit team to meet with them for them to fill in those gaps so that they understand. If they can't explain to me where that $4 million is, then I can't explain it to you. Because I depend on the staff to gather the information needed to meet with folks so that we can account for all of this monies, all right? Because it's our responsibility to make sure that is there, especially if federal funds are involved. Because listen, you have to get your I's and T's and and make sure your decimal's in the right place with the feds, all right, or they don't come back to you the next time around.
Absolutely, and continuing with that, of course, was that forensic audit. I think that follows with the missing revenue. They were saying that when you claimed there was not a forensic audit that you guys requested and was not completed, they were saying they don't really know what audit you're speaking of. Can you clarify when that audit was formally requested? And do you have any documentation of that audit being requested?
If you would go back, and I think the date would have been in sometime in April, all right, of last year, when, again, I work with those that we appoint to. You'll find that Mr. Taylor, who was appointed by us, asked for that audit, all right? And then the other part of that is there was a shift from this Faye Massimo being the CEO to Ms. Cutter being the CEO. So if you say you do it when you shift CEOs. So therefore, we should have had those numbers to make sure everything was in place, and we didn't have that.
And of course, Chairman Ellis, I think one thing we're hearing from CAT is they're claiming that this ultimately, these claims you're making, this announcement of trying to part ways with CAT is ultimately retaliatory, given the new law that came in place that shrunk the amount of seats that the board had from 6 to 3. What do you have to say to that? Can you respond? Is this being retaliatory?
All right, let me say this to you because I know you're new, all right? And it goes to all of you. Go back and get CAT board's minutes and videos back when I was on the CAT board in 2018. And you'll see me asking for the same thing then that I'm asking for now, all right? I expect, and I'll say this too, my colleagues will tell you, I say this to them all the time, as the chairman and CEO, I'll take all the lumps and bumps. Let them throw it this way. So folks trying to discredit what I say, but if you go back and search CAT records, you'll find that when I was on the CAT board, I was saying the same thing that I'm saying now, okay? We have been out of place for a while, and now you have a team of folks who are willing to work on every entity to make sure that our public transportation here is top notch, that we get folks where they need to be, when they need to be, and the routes and things that were cut out in 22, hopefully when we get through working in the next 3 months or so, they'll be back. All right, because we need to serve the public, and that's our responsibility.
Senator Mallow, you voted in favor of 756, correct?
Absolutely. I think it was on the local calendar that day.
So are you saying that 756 was a mistake?
Absolutely not. I think where we
are you now, why are you now pressing for an expansion of the board?
Well, so let's go back in time. I'm the original author of re-envisioning the CAT board. I started with those conversations with my former colleague, Representative Jim Pinnell, who wrote the CAT Act in 1986, and called him and talked about how the framework got there. And so my institutional knowledge of the authority itself, the CAT Act, the powers, how it's structured, and watching this bill kind of happen and where we are today, I'm the senator of the 2nd. I represent 200,000 constituents. They're from Thunderbolt to Port Wentworth. And in that district, those folks depend on and elected me to be a leader, not in times of comfort, but in uncomfort. This is not my bill, but I think working with our delegation, working with the city of Savannah, working with the county, working with the CAT board, we know that this has to be the right thing for the citizens of Chatham County. What we also agree is that transparency is at the essence of government, and we have to ensure that that is there, and we have to tighten those guardrails and put in additional reporting requirements and make sure that transparency occurs. That's what happened in 2012 when the CAT board was restructured at that time, and those reporting policies were put in, the audit requirements were put in. And so what I look at this as is the opportunity to tighten the belt and say, if it's already happening, let's put it in statute, let's ensure it's happening, let's set a deadline to it, and then we can manage what's in the law, not in IGA, but what says the law all. And in doing so, it's my hope that the county commission and the chairman will appoint members to the CAT board at their commission meeting, hopefully on Friday, or put them up for a first reading so that we can begin the process of getting this authority to where it needs to be. Because at the end of the day, the people who are working downtown, the people working at the hospital, restaurants, they could care about any of the stuff we're talking about. They just want to know, is transportation going to be available for me to get home, to go to work, to pick up my kid from school? And I think as elected officials, we have a commitment to ensure that those families and those citizens receive that service. And that's what I believe we're going to be able to accomplish here today. I believe we're going to accomplish this with our delegation. I believe we're going to accomplish this with working with our city colleagues and ensuring we do the right thing by citizens.
Does
So
the rest of the delegation support this revision? Are they prepared to back legislation in the upcoming assembly? Is Stevens going to support it?
I talked to Chairman Stevens, and this morning he said, Senator Mallow, you are the expert on this. If you tell us this is the best path forward, you can probably get this done, and we will get behind you to do this. I said, I'm going to shoulder the load to get this done, and I just need the rest of the delegation to come along and work with me. When I started with the CAT bill originally, the delegation was with me, and I think that comes from having the trust of your colleagues, that they know that I'm going to do the right thing. I'm not working for the county, I don't work for the state, I don't work for any of them. In fact, I tell them that all the time. I work for the people of the second, and sometimes they look for me to be the buffer between local government and them and vice versa. And so I hope that this is a way that we can move forward. Expanding the board to bring more people to the table so that we have greater oversight, I don't think anybody could argue or disagree with that. I think that is the right thing to do. And then these questions won't have to be asked because you know what? You'll find the audit. It'll be published online. You can go download it. Others can go download it, look at it. And as a taxpayer, what I hope to accomplish is what I've talked to Commissioner Whiteley about is that when you see your millage rate and you want to know what's in it, you have the ability to come right here, have that public hearing, and see what the questions are, see what the answers are, and know where your money's being spent. And guess what? When we do that in a public forum, everybody's happy.
And Chairman Ellis, quickly, are you going to allow Commissioner Farrell's motions to come to the floor for a vote tomorrow morning?
I don't know what you're talking about.
He sent you a letter. It says he wants, and he copied the rest of the commissioners. He says he's bringing he would like to have 3 motions considered by the commission tomorrow at its meeting, one of which is to rescind your November 13th letter. One is to stop all litigation, and the third one is to put 3, to seat the commissioners, for the commission to seat its allotment of people on the current CAT board. Are you saying you didn't read the letter? You did? You haven't received it?
There's a process by which you go through to get something on the agenda. If the proper procedure is followed, then we'll see where it goes.
But you didn't put it on the agenda.
I wasn't asked to put it on the agenda.
It went out midweek.
I was not requested to put it on the agenda.
Well, that's, okay. That's a fundamental disagreement with the,
With you?
with Commissioner, with Commissioner Farrell.
I'm just,
Did you not receive his letter? Are you saying you didn't read his?
I didn't read it,
Okay, thank you.
all right?
That's
I
fine.
didn't read it because that's not the proper procedure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Chairman, I remember in the past you've talked about, starting your own transit from scratch, but now it seems like you're planning on redoing this whole rebranding of the board. Can you talk about where that stands? Are you planning on working with CAT through this, and what have communications with them been like recently?
You all interpret my letter, and you all interpret the commission's letter that we sent to CAT and my comments as me saying that we had to start all over again, all right? That was never our intention. Our intention was to get public transportation at a very, very successful level in Chatham County, all right? And I said, if it took that, that would happen. I didn't say it was gonna take that, all right? So you've seen us, we've come together, we've had those conversations. We now know, the senator now know what the commission's objectives were, all right? And what we needed to see put in place. And that's why you see what you see in this press conference today.
So you have been in contact with Kat about this?
I've been in contact with Chairman Leggett, Chairman of the CAT Board, to discuss what I have in the letter that I proposed to the county. I called Chairman Leggett after my meeting with Chairman Stevens this morning and briefed him on the same, and the mayor of Savannah is in New Orleans. Spoke to him briefly, and I spoke to his city manager and mentioned to him briefly what we have discussed here today, and I formalized that in a letter. My assistant has sent this letter out to all of the responsible entities that I've mentioned today. They're on the CC line of my letter, and this is the framework that I intend to use to move forward. Now, let me be clear, the General Assembly does not have to have a county or city approve or tell us to do anything. We are the General Assembly, and we set the laws in the state of Georgia, and that is our legislative power. What I do understand is that for good government to happen, we have to work collectively with our county and city partners to do the best thing for all of our residents, to ensure that we work together in this process, and that's what we've done with HB 756. The delegation now has appointments to this authority. The state does fund transit, and so if we talk about large investments, now we do so competing together, because we'll draw down more state dollars, we'll draw down more local money, taxpayers will know where their money is going, and at the end of the day, we should never lose sight of the riders, the most important person that we're talking about, and the people who use transit to go to work, to pick up their kids, to go get groceries, who depend to go to the doctor on that service. We shouldn't lose sight of those folks in this conversation, those who depend on paratransit. And the county does fund paratransit, and that is something that's an essential service to this community, and we have to do that collectively in a way that is reflective of good government. And I would hope that this process could work in Washington, and maybe you wouldn't see as much dysfunction in Washington, because we could come together and avoid all these pitfalls and say, all right, let's get to the brass tacks. Let's get 4 things that we can agree to work on. Let's agree and legislate that thing together, and let's go talk to the other priorities and get them to agree as well, and let's move this thing forward.
And so Chairman Ellis, talking about the 3 spots that you guys left open on the board for CAT, what was the reasoning for that, leaving those spots open since the change?
Appointments are first, executive sessions comment, so I won't be making any comments on that.
Well, Senator Mallow, the chairman says that 756 is unconstitutional. He has said that publicly. Do you agree with that assessment, that 756 is unconstitutional?
I fundamentally believe 756 is within the powers of the Georgia General Assembly. And whether we go back and do this by general bill or by local bill, either way, the only people who are winning in this debate on 756 are the lawyers, because they're all getting a bill of hour, the silk stocking folks, okay? And the people that we all represent don't want silk stocking lawyers collecting checks on something that we can solve ourselves. So if we can save the taxpayers some money and we'll come back and make some technical changes and we all agree this is a framework and move forward, then guess what? We're not arguing constitutionality. What we're arguing is that we don't want to send our money to silk stocking lawyers, and we want to make sure that the citizens can use that money to ride buses. So I think that's the best approach moving forward.
And I concur, in case you want to just try to divide between me and him. I concur exactly.
No, that's not fair. I mean, Chairman, you stated publicly that it was unconstitutional, and here's a sponsor of the who supported the legislation and says it was. I'm trying to ascertain what what that difference is over. Thank you.
Maybe you
I'm
need
not trying to divide you. I'm just simply.
Maybe you need to have a conversation with our attorneys.
Chairman Ellis, I wanted to talk about that letter that you sent out back in November announcing to end the partnership between the county and CAT by June 30th. Who saw that letter before it went out, and why weren't commissioners notified in advance?
That letter was generated among all of us who were in the room, okay? Where the divide came up, we have settled that issue, okay? And that's over and done with.
And just to follow up, those 4 commissioners who have spoken out, what steps will you take now with those 4 commissioners to restore trust and prevent those kinds of miscommunications in the future?
Those 4 commissioners who have what?
Who spoke out against that letter?
Everybody have their own opinion, all right? And everybody's allowed to speak their own opinion. I don't try to muzzle anybody, but I say what I said, then I stand on what I did and what I said.
So, Chairman.
Yes, sir.
What was the original composition of the CAT board? When did it change? That's the first question, and I have another question for you and the senator.
Okay. The CAT board was first developed, and the county commissioners, the 9 county commissioners were the CAT board. they would have, meeting for the county, take a recess and come back and do CAT board member. And then in 2012, that's when it changed. And the past board was structured the way it was structured.
So, at this point right now, Chairman and also Senator, what do you want the citizens of Chatham County to know with regards to the meeting of the minds that y'all have right? Y'all have a meeting of the minds right now, and what do you want the citizens to know and how that's advantageous for them?
It's advantageous that the county is asking for transparency and accountability with taxpayer funds. On the state side, we want to ensure the composition and makeup of the board is reflective of the ridership and the people who are funding the transit system. But we also want to make sure that the board that we have is going to be reflective of all of the citizens of Chatham County because this is taxpayer money. And right now, we need to make sure that everybody that's on the board, we tighten up those reporting requirements, the transparency, to make sure that we can ensure that there is public trust in transit and CAT. CAT has had a black eye over this community for several years from several CEOs, and I think what we're doing now is to strengthen that transparency and that accountability moving forward so that none of these issues happen again and that transit is fixed in perpetuity as we talk about regional transit and how do we get people who live in Chatham County a bus to go work at Hyundai if that's the best economic pathway, and that's what we got to talk about.
And in the same vein, what I would like for all of Chatham County to know is that we want a transportation system, a transit system that gets everybody where they need to be when they need to be there. You can count on, as I did when I was a little boy, we had Mr. Leon used to drive the Savannah Transit then. It wasn't the CAT, all right?
Sir?
My house at 611 Waters Avenue was not a bus stop. But every Sunday at 9:45, Mr. Leon would stop at Carver and Waters Avenue, and Sister Ellis and Deacon Ellis, and those 10 kids would come across that street, get on that bus, and go to the Yamacraw to church, all right? That's the kind of service we want to return back to all of Chatham County. So wherever you need to be, I don't care whether it's at your wound care appointment, I don't care if it's your dentist appointment, your hair appointment, your doctor's appointment, there is a way for us to get you where you need to be and then get you back home. What I want to cut out totally is folks being dropped off at their doctors, right, at 1 o'clock, and at 6 o'clock they're still sitting there waiting on the paratransit to come back because the county pays for paratransit totally. And so we want them to have faith in this commission that we will deliver, and this state senator and this state delegation, that we will deliver transportation for everyone in Chatham County.
Sir. Sir.
Anything else?
Yeah, Chairman Ellis, just to follow up, 'cause I know that Senator Mallow mentioned that he's spoken with Kat earlier this morning. Of course, Kat yesterday had said they were still waiting to have a formal meeting scheduled with y'all to really sit down and hash this out. Since now Senator Mallow has spoken with him, I mean, is there now a plan or a schedule to meet with Kat formally?
Even when Senator Mallow was speaking with them, the attorneys were speaking with the attorneys from CAT, all right, to set up that meeting, all right? And what they have to do, though, is they have to organize everybody's time, okay? When they were trying to organize it before, I was in, D.C. or? I was in D.C., all right? So I couldn't be at a meeting here. So when the attorneys have gotten everybody's schedule together and can meet, we're ready to meet, we're ready to talk, we're ready to move forward. But I want folks to know before we even meet, we have taken the first step with Senator Mallow to meet in the middle, okay? So everybody needs to be willing to meet and to resolve this problem so that we get public transportation in Chatham County back to my days. All right? And if you want to call them the good old days, yeah, because Mr. Leon was always on time. And I was at church on time.
Will you drop the lawsuits before those meetings happen?
Those are law questions. We haven't met yet. So we can't say, I haven't even talked to my colleagues about that yet. So how can you want me to stand up here and say that?
I think our county attorney could address this, but if the General Assembly passes another bill, then I think 756 becomes a moot point, because it will be a new bill in force that will be modernized CAT Act. And so I think, irrespective of passing the bill, I think it would just go away if the General Assembly passes another bill, which is our power and purview to do so. And I hope to work with the delegation to be able to accomplish that moving forward. And when we have the meeting of the minds, I hope to have draft legislation that we can all look at, that Legislative Council would have drafted. I would have met with the delegation first, and everybody irons it out, and then we'll come forward and meet with the respective entities. And we agree, second Monday in January when the General Assembly convenes, there'll be an ad run. It'll be in the paper, and then you'll see a bill dropped on the local calendar. It'll be read first time, second time, assigned, and go through the normal passage. And hopefully, this process moves forward in that session very smoothly. And I think we can get that done.
Thank you.
State Senator, when did Chairman Ellis reach out to you first about all this?
I sent Chairman Ellis a letter last night at 11:30 p.m. His assistant, Ms. Gale, was on the phone with my assistant, Karen, this morning at about 7:30. We met this morning at 9, had a phone conference. I had a phone call with the chairman, the manager after that, then made additional phone calls, and then I sent a subsequent follow-up letter to the chairman again to confirm all that we had talked about and kind of leading up to this point. And so I will say within 24 hours, we were able to get some stuff together, and working with my county commissioners behind me, who I represent each of their districts in my district, and talking with them and saying, okay, here's where I'm at. What do you hear from your constituents? And I think we came out with a good framework and called the mayor, and I've been on the phone from 11:30 last night till this press conference today. So it's a Herculean effort. Some people may not have read their emails. That's why I got copies of the letters for you all to have here today, so that you can see them and read them. And when I put my signature on it, it's on Senate letterhead. I've signed it. This is the Senate of the Second, and I'm, again, a member of the delegation, but I am 200,000 constituents. So I hope to work with my other House colleagues to make sure we get all this done and ready to go, so that we're ready to go.
I'm not trying to separate or draw a divide, but why exactly did it take that long until, you said just a couple hours ago, to really have a conversation? I mean, Chairman Ellis called this unconstitutional weeks ago.
Well, I think because the Attorney General was involved in the lawsuit for the delegation. The Attorney General is our counsel because we are the state. And so there's an ongoing piece of litigation there. What I talked to Chairman Stevens about today was what's in the best interest of citizens. And we agree, paying lawyers to argue and litigate something we can absolutely solve, and we don't need lawyers to solve it. We can solve it ourselves. We should do that. We don't need to keep paying lawyers to figure out something we can figure out on our own. And I think that's where we said, look, coming up, we need to get this process going. The delegation has a meeting tomorrow. The county commission has a meeting tomorrow. The timing was right because we'll all be at White Bluff at Savannah Tech tomorrow. I can broach this issue with my colleagues tomorrow. We'll all be there all day. It's the perfect timing. Before that meeting, we can get consensus like we always do and come out and say, yep, Senator, you got it. We're going to give you the lead on it. You get the draft. You back it. Myself, Senator Watson, Senator Hickman would get it out of the Senate, send it to the House, let the House colleagues pass it all the way through. And I think that's how legislation actually works, is that's how we get it done. You can't pinpoint it. Sometimes you can get up at 12:51 in the morning and have a phone call and we can fix something. We may be in opposite parties, but we do come together, and that's why we're one of the best delegations in the state, is because we can put aside partisan divide and agree on the right thing moving forward, and a handshake and a commitment is what we operate on, and I believe that with Chairman Stevens and myself, that is the commitment we're operating on today.
And so, Chairman Ellis, why, have that letter to terminate services with CAT before reaching out to State Senator?
I want to quote to you some scripture, and then you can take it and go from where you want to. It may not come when you want it, but it'll be right on time.
Amen. Amen.
And then Chairman Ellis, just to clarify, because of course a lot of things were said today with this new legislation, I think the big question is, is there still the plans, you still plan to move forward, intending to still end that agreement with CAT, or are you still looking to potentially amend that? I mean, what is?
Listen to what Senator Mallow said, all right? With what we are proposing, going back to the delegation, where this all came from, going back to the delegation and rewrite and come up with a new bill, takes us forward, all right? The rear view mirror is a small mirror. We want to look at through the front mirror. We're going forward, we're not looking back.
I think the passage of the new framework will give the county and the CAT board better negotiating tools to frame that IGA, because there may be things in that IGA that, as I propose in this letter, we codify in statute. We codify the audit, we codify the transparency, we codify and strengthen open records requests and this transparency and reporting piece back to the county commissioners. We codify how that millage rate hearing will go. And so those things may have been in an IGA. Those things should actually be codified in state law. And just like we do any other public entity that's a public fund that receives taxable money, we need to do it that way.
And so, go ahead.
So as a taxpayer myself, of course, my question is the following. When it comes to the whole this situation going above, we all know lawyers, fees, stuff like that comes with our packets. So with that being said, is there like a timeline for like when this is going to come to a conclusion, or what do you guys have in mind to do?
Second Monday in January, the Georgia General Assembly will convene, and we will have hopefully a bill that will be first read, second read, then assigned to committee, moved out upon committee, placed upon a local calendar and passed from the Senate. I'll move for immediate transmittal from the Senate to the House, ask for the House to take up that action and move it the same way.
And I know you commented there's gaps they're missing, of course. You said that, right? Gaps missing. So with that being said, will those gaps be filled by then? And if not, will all those documents be released to the public so we can see?
We're working on those documents as we speak, all right? We've already made notice of what we need to find out where those gaps are. So hopefully those things can be given to us before week's end, all right? And that's tomorrow, or early next week, so that we can go. But I think what it is now is that the manager and the assistant manager and attorney are setting up a meeting with the folks over there to get the information that are gaps. Anything else?
All that you've said here today, this is with the entire commission's backing, correct?
Enough.
We haven't voted on anything.
Right.
This doesn't
And
require.
honestly, there is nothing that we need to vote on. This has to go to the delegation, all right? And we have agreed that this can go to the delegation. That's why we're standing here, right?
I'm sorry, Chairman. The whole commission has agreed to forward this letter to the
No,
support.
Stop. Do you see the whole commission standing up here?
But that isn't
see the majority.
That is not the whole commission.
But that's the majority.
The entirety of the commission will receive a copy of my letter. I've CC'd it to the entire Chatham County Board of Commissioners. They will receive a copy of my letter. Again, the county does not impede and direct the state. That is not how this goes. The state will take the direction on the legislation and work with our county commissioner and our chairman. So when I have a bill, they can present that bill to the Board of Commissioners, and it should outline the framework of these four things. And that is the process. And I want to be clear about that. When we talk about the General Assembly does not work for the city. It does not work for the county. It is the Georgia General Assembly. We work for the citizens of this state. So we are taking the lead. I'm taking the lead to propose this to my colleagues to get support from the Chatham delegation, to then move that back and say, okay, commission, mayor, alderman, here's the framework that we've agreed upon, CAT board, here's this framework, we are all coming together, and by moving this thing forward, all those other lawsuits, everything else, in my opinion, becomes a moot point, because there'll be a new governing law, and we all agree that that is going to be the best pathway forward, and that's the leadership I'm putting towards this. And so, Mr. Chairman, it's your prerogative. I CC'd it to the Board of Commissioners. You can share it with them at your meeting on tomorrow. That's frankly, if they want to call me, they can call me. I don't represent all of their districts, but but the folks behind me, I do represent their districts. And so they're all in my Senate district. And so this should alleviate that question and that issue. And I look forward to, I talked to Commissioner Farrell about CAT yesterday, actually. And so I think this framework he would be amenable to. I haven't had a chance to call him about it yet, but I'll leave that to the chairman to work with his commissioners.
What was that conversation with Farrell like?
That conversation was just talking about the framework that I've presented to the chairman, that I think this needs to be the right thing. Commissioner Farrell talked to me about needing to expand refrigerated access for produce and getting the delegation to support the county's request to have more produce across from the state farmers market because we don't have enough refrigerated storage for fresh produce. And we all agree that people should have access to fresh produce. So I talked to Commissioner Farrell about that, and I talked about the need to ensure that we can make this move forward in a way. And I said, just Commissioner Farrell, just let me apply the leadership to this and work with me moving forward, and I hope he will, and I hope the other commissioners will let me do the same thing, as I am the only senator that represents Chatham County in its entirety. All right, and so I work with Senator Watson, I work with Senator Hickman, and those are my colleagues in the state Senate, and I think we will come out with a good framework. But I'm the only person who represents Chatham County in its entirety. I don't have any other counties. So this is near and dear to my heart because this is my only county. These are my only constituents. And it's important because they're poor, they're wealthy, they're unemployed, they're employed, but we all agree that they all need transit. And this is the right thing to move forward. No, I didn't amend the bill. I tried to do that. I got, some scars behind me for the first CAT bill I tried to amend, but I think we can come back and do this one. And I may get a few more scars for this one, but that's okay. That's what leadership looks like. And that's what it looks like to see elected officials come together to solve challenges for your community, work with this chairman, work with these commissioners, work with them. Let's get together and solve the problems that our citizens want. And we all agree, and y'all said it, y'all don't want to pay silk stocking lawyers your tax dollars. Well, if you don't want to pay silk stocking lawyers your tax dollars, then call your county commissioners, call your city aldermen, and tell them to support the plan that Senator Mallow and the delegation are going to work to do, and call the other members of the delegation. Tell them to work with us. Let's support it. I think we can get this done. I think the delegation is going to support it. So I haven't spoken to them, but I'm confident, and I think we'll get a pathway forward, and that's what we all want.
I have one more question, of course. We all know this has so many layers to cover, this whole thing. We could be here for hours talking about this. But I have one question when it comes to pay, drivers' wages itself. How much influence do you guys as the county have on that? And if so, is there any plan to increase it for the drivers?
We work within the framework that Senator Mallow is talking about, right? We need to look at what we're paying drivers, all right? We need to look at what everybody's being paid. Knowing now, I wish I had an uncle, all right, who was a leprechaun with a pot of gold worth $4 trillion. Then we could pay everybody maximum. But we know we can't do that, okay? So working with Senator Mallow, working with the County Commission, working with the CAT Board, we can get it up to a level. And that requires working with the municipalities that are involved with this, which is the city of Savannah, all right? Getting it up to a level so that the drivers have a living wage. And I think that if you look at what the county pays, we pay a living wage, and I think they ought to be on that same page as everyone else.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right? Thank you all.
And my brought copies, you can come screenshot them, whatever y'all want.
And PIO have extra copies for you all as well, okay?
For more than 40 years, Ambuck Park has been a field of dreams for many Little Leaguers.
We renovated everything.
The park holds a special place in the hearts of so many county residents, including Chatham County Parks and Rec Director Steve Proper.
I actually played on this field when I was a kid, and it hasn't really had any renovations since then.
Originally built in 1978, the recent $1.8 million upgrades, thanks to your SPLOST dollars, have made this great park a whole lot better.
We laser graded the fields, we had new fencing put up, and new bleachers,
Named after the national nonprofit organization whose mission is to inspire mobility and independence, Ambuck Park may appear to be similar to any other ball field, but if you take a closer look, some call this a miracle field.
The challenge field, it's a synthetic turf, so we can get wheelchairs and crutches and all, easy for them to maneuver around the field.
And it's on this challenge field where dreams of playing baseball for some who once thought were out of reach become